For the past 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, Nigeria has been having challenges that are beckoning and waiting for answers and solutions. That is why we are bringing to you our program, State of the Nation. And this is going to come up on our flagship program this morning on ITV. I am hereby inviting you to join me, Bola Bakare, your host, on State of the Nation, so that we can hasten the motions that brings national development. It's going to be a regular basis on Tuesdays. Make it a date with me. I'll be there waiting for you, and then we shall discuss Nigeria on an holistic level.
On this segment this morning, we are dwelling and dealing with a situation that is with us on a daily basis. It is a situation that is on national discourse from all nooks and crannies. What am I talking about here? I'm talking about our rising debt profile. It is not easy. Everybody knows it. Even the layman on the street, he has about it. But the thing is, there are technicalities that are behind this that most of us do not know. There are issues that are topical, that is more professional than most of us do know. But what we're saying here in simple terms is our rising debt profile. Are we within limits? Are we within reasonable limits? We've had a lot of intros from professionals, both in the academia, in the accounting world, in the finance world, and everywhere else. Everybody is saying things about our debt profile. This morning, we shall know for a fact where we stand and the limits where we've been, or either we've exceeded the limits or we haven't exceeded the limits. With me today in the studio via phone is a professional, a chartered accountant, in the person of Comrade Zakar Bala. Comrade Zakar Bala, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Welcome to the program. I'm glad that you're here and you make it. Like I rightly said in my opening gambit, we have a problem on our hands. We have a rising debt problem on our hands. I will call it a problem because I don't want to delude myself by believing it is not a problem. When the level of borrowing is on the high side, we need to know where it's going into and what we are using it for. So from you being a professional chartered accountant, I would like you to give us an intro, make it your intro, into the element of borrowing. We are looking at it in general terms, the element of borrowing. What is borrowing per se?
Thank you. Another name for borrowing is loan
Yes.
or debt.
Yes.
Like you rightly said, the best way to look at this is to start by defining what a debt is.
Good.
And though I'm a professional, but we are now discussing national issues.
Of course,
Nigerian
yes.
issues
Yes.
and economic issues.
Yes.
My belief is by the time I give my definition, you give your definition, other people give their definition,
Yes.
we are going to have a common ground. And this is my definition of a debt. A debt is a financial obligation that must be settled or liquidated someday, somehow, or somewhere.
Of course.
You can also describe, or I can personally define debt as a financial threat that must be settled or liquidated someday, somehow, somewhere. If not, I will be thrown into a problem, or I will find myself in the position of a risk. And to that extent, it simply means that once you are collecting a debt, just have it at the back of your mind that you just must settle it.
Of course, yes. Of course, yes.
You can look at debt from the point of an individual, from the point of a corporate entity,
yes,
and from the point of a nation. If an individual is collecting so much debt, he will get to a point where you can easily describe him as somebody who is insolvent.
Yes. Yes.
And once you are insolvent, then that means you are lacking in so many areas that have to do with cash or finance. It's the same thing when you look at it from the angle of a corporate entity. A corporate entity also can get into a point where they will be running into problems. And in their own, we can technically say they have liquidity issues.
Okay.
And once there are liquidity issues, then that company, sooner than later, may be thrown into liquidation.
Okay.
Then for a nation,
okay,
if the nation is in debt and the debt profile keeps ballooning, then one day, if those debts are not settled, or if there are no terms to make sure they are quickly settled, that country may be thrown into what we call economic slavery. The country will be thrown into economic slavery because after a while, the creditors have no option than to come up with conditions that must make sure that country or nation pays. And it will simply mean mortgaging or coming up with an arrangement that will mortgage the future or the future economic benefits of that country until those debts are settled. And to that point, it will not be immodest to say that country will be thrown into economic slavery.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the definition. And then we have enjoyed your definition, and then we are going to roll with it. Now, let me start throwing some questions at you that are technical and direct. News is rife out there that there is an inference to our loan against our GDP. How do you propagate on this? Are we within limits?
As far as I'm concerned, looking at where Nigeria is today as an emerging economy, as an economy whose economic indices are not looking positive, it will be very, very wrong. Looking at Nigeria today, where Nigeria is, whether we accept it or not, Nigeria is not a developed economy. At best, Nigeria can be described as an emerging economy.
Okay,
and
fair
when
enough.
you are an emerging economy, there are basic economic indices that you look at. You look at minimum wage. You look at inflation. You look at disposable income. You look at what we call investment index.
That's true.
Then you look at security climate. You look at your internal production. And you look at what we call balance of trade. And to a reasonable extent, you also look at government investment. Then most importantly, you also look at internal security. By the time you analyze all these variables, you don't need anybody to tell you whether your country is going to be a positive or a negative investment haven.
That's true. That's true.
And considering where Nigeria is today, to be honest and fair, I don't want to be immodest here. Nigeria does not look attractive as an investment haven.
Okay.
And to that extent, if you are not going to, if you're not looking good as a positive investment haven, then you have to be very careful about the kind of debts that you will be receiving.
Okay.
Because sooner than later, you will be thrown into a situation where you will be at the mercy of your creditors.
Okay.
And in situations like this, it will be very, very wrong or deceptive for anybody to use debt to GDP ratio to measure our level of comfort.
Comrade, are you saying categorically here that that element of debt against GDP is not tenable as we speak, or the parity is not there?
No, both. It's not tenable and it cannot be valid if you only use that ratio and you ignore other ratios. Because if you use that ratio out of probably 5 ratios or 10 ratios, you will notice that it is only that ratio that will give you a deceptive calculation that may look comfortable. Because by the time you look at all the other ratios, you will notice that you are inside the pit already.
Okay.
Because if you look at debt to GDP ratio and you think you are doing well, have you tried to look at your debt to revenue ratio?
That's a factor. That's an important factor.
Look at your debt to population ratio? Have you tried to look at your debt to health ratio? Have you tried to look at your debt to education growth ratio? So by the time you look at only debt to GDP, why not look at other ratios or indices, and you will notice a clear economic mismatch.
That's true. Oh, let me add this. Let me add this to the mix, comrade. Based on what you've just said, it's a known fact here that our debt service gobs about between 70 and 90% of our revenue. This was based on the fact that the revenue is part of the factors that makes up this parity we're looking for in the debt to GDP ratio. What do you think in terms of this debt servicing that is eating up such an humongous percentage?
I don't even want to go to that.
Why? It hurts you.
Listeners and viewers to have high blood pressure.
No, we won't. We are Nigerians. We won't have high blood pressure. We are looking for solutions here, and we will find the solutions.
Because when you look at a country like Nigeria and you start analyzing, even though I'm an analyst, I'm an honest analyst, an objective analyst.
I trust you.
Be careful also not to do something that will be injurious to some Nigerians this morning. By the time I analyze some of those, I think you will discover certain things are not going well. Because I said, have we looked at our revenue to GDP ratios? It's negative, it's not doing well. What about our debt to population ratio? What about our revenue to population ratio? What about our balance of trade? When you look at all these indices and you look at the escalating insecurity and food shortages all over the country, by the time you look at this, you look at even the internal domestication and our patronizing of made in Nigerian goods. Okay, even from the percentage of debt service, from the percentage you mentioned, will any national economy look healthy if that percentage of that country's earning is used for debt servicing?
No, it's huge. It's too huge.
Look at the harsh economic realities on all the Nigerian sectors.
That's true.
The strategic commercial sector, strategic industrial sector, and strategic domestic sector. When you look at those, you will know that there is no way those sectors can be able to come alive and be able to pay for those debts or contribute taxes that will help in paying for those debts. A country that takes debts will know that Nigeria is taking and has double-digit inflation and interest rate. How do you expect that country to be able to pay back? A country that you can talk in a region where something came up, like the African Continental Free Trade Area, but that country has nothing in terms of productive capacity or production capacity to leverage on that. Do you need anybody to tell you that that country is at a risk?
At that juncture, comrade, let me infuse something, because now we're talking in terms of funds, that the funds are not there, our revenues are being used in debt payments and this and that. There are instances where some school of thought said it is good for us to cut down on the pecs of office, that is the cost of governance. Do you think this can make an impact? Because let me add this.
No, if you like, sack all those, remove even, if you like, cut on all the National Assembly, cut on even PAs and technical assistants. That will not help. We are talking about creativity to make Nigeria productive.
That's it.
Even if you sack all the presidential aides, all the aides of the governor, all the aides of the chairman, or all the aides of the councillor, how does that translate into production such that you can refine your crude oil?
Do you mean, on a lower basis, on a primary basis, do you mean the funds so accrued from those specs will not make any impact?
No, So people make that mistake. If you don't have the creativity,
Okay.
if you don't have the creativity so that industries will start working, so that life will be affordable, so that by tomorrow the health system will improve, so that tomorrow you can process our cocoa into chocolate. If you don't have that creativity,
Then
even
there is
if
a
you
problem
have
on
the
hand.
money, you will not be able to achieve anything, even if you sack all the aids. We're
That's
talking
true.
about creating what we call mobility within the economy and
That's
let
true.
production start.
Exactly.
Show me the correlation between sacking the aids of all the ministers and how we will start producing chocolate from cocoa.
From cocoa.
Or how we will now
The
start having
correlation is
20 or
perfect.
30 megawatts of electricity. It's the creativity that is lacking.
Of course, that drives
economic
it.
creativity.
At this point, I am still looking at it. Let's expand it a little bit. We're busy talking about the federal government owing this, owing that. Factor in the element of the states. The states are owing too, a sizable chunk of it. What do we do about them? How do we curtail? How do we mitigate that situation?
It's the creativity that is lacking.
That makes them go and borrow on a state. I'm talking about state level now.
That was what I was saying.
Go ahead.
At the level of states and local government,
Okay.
what is happening to farmers? Are farmers productive? At the level of states, what are the creativities at the health institutions or the health sector
Okay.
or sectors working even at state level? How are they treating their staff? Are they even at the level of states? What are they doing about fertilizer?
Yes.
What are they doing about roads?
That's
if you
true.
don't have these infrastructures
Infrastructure is
and you are
necessary.
able to mobilize your human capital, you will not be productive.
That's true.
Nigerian economy is not a productive economy. And because if you are not productive, you will not make revenue.
There is
if
no
you are not
revenue,
making
that's right.
revenues, then you will continue to beg. And as long as you keep borrowing, you will keep sorrowing. As long as you keep sorrowing, you will only bequeath sorrow to your future generation.
That's
It's the
true.
creativity that is lacking. We
Thank
are
you.
on the wrong economic trajectory and we are using wrong models.
Thanks, comrade.
There are countries that have more population than Nigeria,
And
but
they're
because
thriving.
of creativity, they are doing better.
Thank you, comrade. At that juncture, the factor word there is creativity. Creativity is human capital. It has to be driven for us to be able to have revenue to give us a mainstay. Let me ask you this thing. Let's factor this element into it. We've had our worst recession lately, and it's like we have two recessions as we speak. What factors of this debt profile has affected our recession? Bearing in mind that we had this global pandemic of COVID and then other factors too, maybe global warming and the rest of it. But we've had two recessions. Please factor in these recessions with our debt profile and the management of these two factors. Please.
You see, it's very, very unfortunate that we keep hiding under the COVID pandemic.
I don't like it either. I don't.
The COVID pandemic was a global and is still a global calamity.
Yes,
People
of course,
have
yes.
graduated and moved on. Let us stop hiding under COVID pandemic. I remember it's just like in those days when we came off the military and we were in democracy. Do you know that so many governors, local government chairmen, commissioners, ministers, even after 10 years, were attributing their non-performance
To the military.
hangover of the military? It's fake.
Yeah, it's a fake excuse.
fake.
I like that. It's a fake excuse.
Oh, please, let us stop these things. Let us stop talking about what has global warming got to do with not you being able to provide common kerosene to your people.
That's true.
Tell me
That's
how
true.
global
Nothing.
warming has
No
affected-
correlation. No correlation.
Has global warming made people not to have electricity in China
Oh,
or in
oh.
the US or in Canada?
Oh, no.
Has global
Of course
warming
not.
made Saudi Arabia not to be able to have petrochemical
Of course
industries?
not. Of course not.
Has global warming made Qatar not to be able to process LNG and have gas and electricity?
Of course not.
So people should stop connecting or latching Nigeria into all those global visions.
Because they are lame excuses.
They are not related. Global warming has nothing to do with the insecurity in Nigeria and the banditry. What has global warming got to do with Nigerians going to buy houses in the Middle East, in the Americas, and in Europe? What has that got to do with global warming?
Practically nothing.
Asians are
Practically nothing.
coming to Nigeria to buy houses or to come to Nigeria for Nigerian education. How is that related to global warming or COVID-19?
Okay, my brother.
Making Americans to go and buy houses in China.
My brother, hold it right there. Let me run an inference to an ex-governor, what he said, and then I want your opinion based on it. Lately, ex-governor Obi of Anambra said that the federal government GDP growth rating is meaningless when we talk in terms of poverty that is endemic. What do you think?
No, but it's practical, and that was why I said when they talk about that GDP and you look at other indices, you know that there is no correlation. We are deceiving ourselves with statistics. And as I told you, statistics is not mathematics. In statistics, 1 plus 1 is equals to x plus error margin, and that error margin can be 100% wrong.
Yes, it can be 0 to 1 point.
Can be 100% wrong. How can you be talking about inflation improving? This is when, as you and I are speaking today, a sachet of pure water, which is equivalent to the cup of pure water, is going to cost you 10 pieces, 20 pieces of Nigerian naira to buy 1 cup of pure water. Does that make sense?
Absolutely not.
A bag of fertilizer that used to cost 2,500 is now between 11,000 and 17,000. So what GDP crash are we talking about? Let's be very honest. We lack economic creativity, and if we don't have that creativity, we will never be able to have political creativity. Nearly all the sectors have failed.
Okay,
and for
okay.
people like me, I just want to clarify something today. For all those who knew me, including you knew me more than 10 years ago.
That's true.
10 years ago, the current government was not the government there. You knew how I was talking. For the records. So when people like you and I are talking, it should be known. People should go back to our records. We are not interested in which government is in power.
Of course,
we
yes.
are interested in national leaders that will put our country on both national track and economic track to free us from economic slavery.
Thank you.
Just for the record.
Thank you very much, my brother. Fellow Nigerians, that has been my brother, Comrade Zakar Bala. Like he rightly said, we've been together for over a decade. And there is something we do on a regular basis. We give it to you as is. Let us now think as Nigerians as to what we should do to make Nigeria a better place. Like I keep saying on a regular basis, if the heavens is going to fall, it's going to fall on us all. So if we are going to look for solutions, it's going to be a collective solution. It is not just for one person. It is high time, like he rightly said. It's high time for us to be more creative, more productive. He even said one thing that most people are clamoring for, saying, oh, the pecs of office is too high, this and that. He even said, if we clear all the essays and clear all this, if there is no creativity, we are not going anywhere. Like I keep saying, one program is not enough to tidy up topical issues like this. And State of the Nation will be right back, bringing you the tidbits and the import of what we are talking about, so that we all can learn and then become better people in the development of Nigeria.